Hello and welcome. So great to be welcoming everybody back into our wonderful classroom here at Embody Your Freedom. Hi, Shanna, sitting right there in the gallery, I see. Hello, Kenneth. Hello, Matthew. Hello, Cindy. Hello, Julia. Woohoo!
Hey.
Hi. What would be really cool is if we do like a tour of where are we sitting and why are we sitting here? You've got these backgrounds or the beautiful, like Shanna's in a gallery, which is awesome. I've been there. I love that place. In fact, look back here. This was created in that wonderful gallery by the artist.
That's super super.
King Charles. Ta-da.
Pretty.
Yeah. Jack and I chose the colors he poured and we set the intention. That's in beautiful San Diego. Yay. Welcome everybody.
I'm in my Mary Kay office.
You are in your Mary Kay office. Awesome. We've got displays all around. If anybody needs any zhuzhing.
I got you covered. I can take care of you.
Cindy's the zhuzher. I still got a little bit of a cough. Going to invite a couple of people who are not here just yet. Welcome everybody. So I'm going to be starting off with a question. This happens each class. What are some wins? What are some notices? Where have you noticed progress? And I'm also going to share that I got to meet with two of your fellow warriors. One, Samara, and she said that it's just a night and day change of understanding how the tools relate and work with each other and how she can control her thoughts and choose from the heart. Another person today, he is Arvand, and he could not stop talking about abolish. And I had for 4 months prior to abolish said, you've got to be there. You've got to be there. You've got to be there. That's all it's going to, you just got to be there. I can't explain what happens. But he was very grateful for all of you and the work you did individually and getting to meet you and seeing the transformations and having his own. He said he went to dinner with his parents that night after, Sunday night. And they're like, dude, you're different. Like, what happened to you? And so whatever your parents can notice a major shift, which is, authentic. His parents are really authentic, beautiful human beings. It was just great to hear. So we're going to start off with wins. What are wins for you? Progress, maybe epiphanies, maybe you handled something differently in your life. Would love to hear those shares. And then tonight, what we're diving into is, if you read the email that I sent out earlier as our reminder, we're diving into warriors in relationship. And so how do we show up in relationship with others? That's our class tonight. So who would love to share? Just raise your hand, unmute, and share what wins you've had, what notices you've had, maybe epiphanies and new ways of being. Who would love to share? Yes, Cindy, kick us off.
I will share because I am so proud of myself right now.
Yay, let's hear it. We want to be proud of you too.
Yes, I knew abolish was going to be great, and I was expecting this like instantaneous, like I was going to like leave and be a totally different person. But what happened was, this gradual change, that's been happening little by little each day. And it's been really exciting. And I have to share that today
Yes.
I worked out.
Oh. Tell us about it. What happened? Tell us, take us there.
What happened was you talked about health last week, and I've been going through some challenges since the abolish weekend. I've had a lot of inflammation that I've never had before, and it was sort of this sign that you better get it together instead of talking about how one day you're going to get it together. Um, and so uh, when I went to my doctor, yeah, I was afraid. I didn't know what it was about and all of that. And when I went to her, she wanted to put me on drugs,
Ooh.
2 different drugs. And I was like, no freaking way. I'm not doing that to myself. I'd rather work out. I would rather, go saltless, for a while and cleanse all of this out of my body and do what I need to do to cleanse and restore and heal. Because I do believe in the body's ability to heal itself.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to do what we need to do, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I've been avoiding it. The comfort food has been more appealing to me, but it came to that place where comfort food was no longer comfortable in my body. And not really that it ever really was, because it never really fixed anything in the first place. It didn't
Way
fill
to notice.
it didn't fill that void, that hole, that whatever was missing. And so lately, since Abolish, I've been taking steps. Master Lindsay said something to me. I had a moment with her after she had her talk, and I walked up to her because listening to her really made an impact on me. And it was all of a sudden, I saw what she was going through and what she was pushing through. And I thought, girl, you can't have your excuses anymore. Can't have them. They're lame. And I just went up to her and I told her that. I said, "You've shown me that my excuses are lame and I cannot have them anymore." And she chatted with me and she was just so powerful in just a few sentences. It really impacted me. I mean, even when I was working out, I was like, okay, well, I'm in a tremendous amount of pain. I can't balance. I'm struggling here. But all I kept thinking about was Master Lindsay and how she was struggling through herself. And if
Mm-hmm.
she could struggle through, I can struggle through, I can get strong again, I can be healthy again, I can be, where I want to be with my health and have great longevity and more energy and thrive
Yes.
healthier. Yeah. So
Yes,
that's
you
my
can.
eating.
High
Yeah,
five.
eating healthy now and and cleansing my body and I took the step today and I worked out.
Congratulations. Woohoo!
That's a big win for me.
That's huge. We are so proud of you. And so tomorrow when you're sore, so
Right?
on. Thank you for sharing that, Cindy. Who else would love to share wins, progress, epiphanies, new ways of being for yourself? Yes, Kara.
Okay, so excuse me, I kind of have two rolled up into one. But
We'll
the
take it.
overall lesson is sometimes you just have to start from ground zero again, and that's okay. And
Mhm.
so I've gone back. I missed the first two sessions of our group here. And so I've gone back and I've started from scratch as far as my warrior and those processes go. So I'll be posting those in Abolish soon. But at the same time, I'm re-inspired in the health aspect of my life and started from scratch on that as well. Went back and just forgot everything that I knew and then started from scratch in a process that I guess aligns better with me is the best way to say it. So, basically I've started in two areas, ground zero, building from there, and it feels really good. Feels really good.
That's awesome. Starting at zero is like having a blank canvas, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't know
Mm-hmm.
about you guys, but I love like the first day of school with all the new supplies and the smell of the new supplies and they're not used yet and the blank notebooks and all this kind of stuff. It just makes me happy. So way to go. You said two areas. So health is one. Is there another one that I may have missed?
Just going back and starting from scratch with the warrior and
Oh, very
going
nice.
back to our first sessions that I missed and starting there.
Beautiful. Congratulations. Can't wait to see your progress and what you share inside the group.
Me
Great.
too.
Celebrate you. Who also love to share wins, epiphanies, new ways of being? Yes. I think Julia may be raising her hand and it keeps fading in and out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. So this past weekend I did an event at my church. It was like 5 hours and there was like 100 people that came. It was like a tie-dye event. And I was like the project manager for it. I worked with somebody else on it. Normally I just get wrapped up in like the doing and the being and the doing thing from A to Z, but I actually mentally focused on and intentionally tried to spend time with people and ask them questions. And that's very outside of my norm. I usually just get wrapped up in the doing and things. And so I made sure that I had volunteers in place to do that doing. And I started like being in a space where I was asking, well, how did you come to church? And how did you find us? And how, what's going on with you? And there were like two really good connecting relationships that I found. And it was a good, comfortable conversation for me that is very unusual. So it was out
Wow.
of my norm. Yeah.
And you felt that it's
Yeah.
the frequency, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good. It was good. I need to do that more because the people know me in church. I mean, they know me, but I don't know them and I don't want to be standoffish. So yeah.
Yeah, they want to know more of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So your eagle showed up.
Yep. Yep.
Way to go. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's actually, I can feel how huge that is for yourself.
Yeah.
Anyone else love to share? Yes, Sherry.
Okay, so if you remember, we talked about my dad having the adorable phrase catastrophically bad,
Right?
which he again used in our last conversation. And I took your recommendation and said, Dad, we need to find some things that are catastrophically good. Talk to me about catastrophically good things happening in your life. And he was like stunned.
It's taken aback, huh?
Had trouble thinking of anything. Catastrophically awesome. Absolutely. So, I talked with my sister and told her about strategy and said, hey, so we need to pattern interrupt him. And anytime you hear him say catastrophically bad, flip it.
Yeah.
He's seeking the bad, and we need to help him seek the amazing.
Yeah, we get to. It's a certainty, isn't it? Whenever we have a pattern, patterns are a certainty, even if they're patterns that may be neutral or energy poor, they're still patterns, right? And so that pattern interrupt allows us to have a whole new perspective on life that we haven't had the energy or maybe even the invitation to have. So you're an invitation to him to a new party.
Yay!
Yeah, and I know Sherry loves new parties. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
A suggestion there is maybe take a picture of Dad or like a little video or something with Dad before this huge transformation is probably on the way already. And then in the future, whenever, because his attitude will change, the more consistent you are, not in making it happen, but being the model of it, you'll catch on. I mean, we become our environment, right? And then you'll have this new version of him in the future. I remember
that would be catastrophically awesome.
It will be. It will be. Remember when we were working with or being with Jackie and Cindy's mom, she had lots of health challenges, right? And when we have health challenges, it can drag us down and don't have enough energy, like we talked about last week. And Jackie and I specifically, we made a pact that we're going to go in there with something of energy richness. I bought a book of one-liners, and we'd tell jokes. We'd get her outside. We asked her to share, happy stories from her memories, and stories of when she was a little girl or when she was like, because she was flirtatious when she was a teenager. She was like, really liked the boys. And like, what would you do, and just let her be in that state. And it transformed her, like, And you could tell her breathing was different, her health was different, her posture was different. You know, when we smile, we release chemicals. And so I believe in your dad to have this transformation that you and your sister get to support.
I second that motion.
Yes.
Say
And we heard it, and so it's all ratified. Now it is like put in the board meeting notes. Cool. We have room for one more. Anyone else have a share? Yes, Brian.
Hi, everyone. I'll be very quick. By the way, everyone's great examples tonight of their epiphanies and things that they're doing. Cindy, I really want to encourage you to keep going and keep working on that diet and the exercise routine. You're going to see a lot of benefits real quick. It's going to happen for you real quick. So I just want to give you that encouragement.
Aww.
What's interesting is I had an epiphany as far as below the line behaviors, some examples surrounding this sphere of influence, and how significance, I don't want to use the word detrimental, but it's detrimental to so many different things. It's like people can't
What
see.
is specifically, maybe I missed it. So what is specifically detrimental to so many things?
Well, it's significance, people's need for
Significance seeking.
significance seeking.
Okay.
Even in situations where they've moved beyond a certain level that they used to be at, and finding need for significance in past roles, past situations, because there could be someone who's presenting a level of energy, a level of competency that might be perceived as better than them in even past situations. And so it was this example recently that let me know that, people can't even see what other people see as far as their need for significance. And even people who aren't aware of coaching, things of that nature, you can see people, like on Zoom, their eyes are open. It's like, oh, did he say that? But it's an example of people. What I heard today this is a brief example of someone seeking significance, even in situations that's beneath them.
Why do you think somebody would do that?
Because they're projecting the insecurities that they had of their time and doing a certain role or doing a certain whatever. And it's when someone else takes over that position and they do a really good job, then it's a projection of, okay, maybe I didn't do as well as I should have. And yeah, it's just interesting.
It is.
Takes a lot of energy too. A lot of energy, significance. All the below the line behaviors require a lot of energy, but significance, it's a doozy.
It's got a lot of different facets to it, ways it shows up. Yeah, if we remember in our workbook from Abolish, there's 2 human potential viruses, HPVs, right? As they're called. I named them the human potential virus before I put the initials to it. And I went, oh, that's funny. But our human potential is above the line. And the 2 viruses are, I'm not good enough, and I'm not lovable. The ultimate fears of humanity. And the beauty of why we have relationships in the first place, because we're talking about relationships tonight. So thank you for that segue, Brian. And relationships are where we all get to learn. We all get to grow. If we were there was this book back in, I think I read it in junior high. I was made to read it in junior high. I would not have chosen this book, I don't think. It was called Z for Zachariah. Anybody else had to go through that book? Okay, Carolina, this was Z for Zachariah. Did you enjoy that book? You did. Okay. I was like, get on with it. I was like, come on. So in this story, all humanity's gone. Like, they're gone. I don't even remember why. They're all gone. And there's a little girl. And the little girl is the remaining human on the planet. And so you're traveling with her and going through life with her. And she comes across this other human being, and his name is Zachariah. So they meet. But up until that point, she was the only human and that she knew. And so it was just her life. And I remember thinking, well, this is boring. If it's just one human, it's boring. I'm like, okay, she wakes up, she finds something to eat, she goes to the bathroom, she goes and tries to find people and do stuff, and then she goes back to bed. I was like, this is so boring. And so what the big takeaway for me in that book, I think we studied it for a month, which I felt was like a lot, was that we need each other. We need each other to grow. We need each other to become our best selves. We need each other to be mirrors to ourselves and find out where we hit upon something that triggers or feels painful or discomfortable, uncomfortable, because that's where we grow. And so I invite in the challenges. I'm not going to go out and make them. I'm going to do my best to be in, synergy with people and love with people and things of that nature. But I used to be the person that shied away from wanting any conflict. I'd go, oh no, I have to be everything to everybody else so that there's no conflict. So I don't step on anybody's toes. So I don't have people think that I did wrong. And it was so exhausting. Like you said, below the line, Brian, is exhausting. And it doesn't ever lead to the outcome that you truly want. It leads to a less than outcome that you manipulated or contrived or guessed at or hoped for, or just completely avoided or told yourself a story about that wasn't even true, right? So tonight what we want to go through into is a worksheet. I'm going to put it in our chat. And it is for relationships. And I truly love this part of Embody Your Freedom. In fact, this is probably the basis of Abolish Your Saboteur across the board. It's easier to dance into our own becoming when we look at, if we look through life through the lens of what happened to us, or through the lens of what hasn't happened yet, as far as our dreams and goals, or if we look at it through the lens of what other people did or said or didn't do, it's an easier toe in the water to our own becoming. And so we started off this course with building a warrior, embodying it, having some characteristics, understanding where we can grow in ourselves. We looked at money, we looked at health. Tonight, this is probably the bigger of all the containers in your life. It's the people, it's the way you interact with others. And what you do, especially when it feels uncomfortable or not what you expected, you're not getting the outcomes that you want. What shows up? And so I'm going to pull this worksheet up. We'll step through it. And what I invite us to do is there's a part of the worksheet where I ask you some questions. I would really love if someone, or more than someone, would find courage just like you did in the weekend. Raise your hand. And let's work together. And let's use this work to really shift something meaningful to you. So let's pull it up. Oh, I already have it on my desktop. The other thing I'm going to drop in is what's called a trigger map. Now, in your Abolish workbook, trigger map is in there. And the reason why we want to understand our triggers is not so much so we can avoid them. Some people think, well, if I didn't have triggers, then I'd be good. Well, you'll make new triggers. So the cool thing about triggers is that you get to inform the people that are closest to you what triggers you. So in your workbook on page 35, knowing your trigger map, I'm going to drop the independent worksheet here if you just want the worksheet outside of it being in the workbook. I said I was going to do that. I'm going to do it. Once we know our triggers and we can communicate our triggers, who's responsible for them? Is the other person responsible to no longer trigger us because we told them, hey, this is how I get triggered, so stop doing it? We could think that. That's the saboteur thinking that. It's below the line. Or we can say, hey, now that I've communicated it, I can now have courage to say, hey, I'm triggered. This is what I perceived happened. This is how I feel. And you can actually use it as a way to talk through things as opposed to avoid them. And most of the times we get our triggers happen and the worst parts of ourselves come out to try and manage the situation. If the people we know and love around us most understand our triggers, then we have the ability to say, hey, that was that thing I communicated. This is how I'm feeling. That I own my trigger. Let me work through it with you. Okay. So I'm going to share the screen for this worksheet. Yay. Okay. I love this part. I love this part. Unfortunately, however I'd want to term it, I wish I had these ways of being in relationship long ago. And I didn't. And so I did relationships poorly when I was in my 20s and 30s. And I was learning how to be in a relationship. Every single one of us are learning how to be in a relationship. That doesn't mean we can't start now to be in better relationship. And this isn't just intimate relationships. This isn't relationships with family, friends, neighbors, co-workers, people at the gas station. This is relationships with humans, us in relationship with another human. If you haven't noticed, humans are everywhere. They are everywhere. I mean, I'm looking at a freeway right now. There's so many humans out there. Can't get rid of them. And sometimes it feels like I want to get away from them, but there they are again. So the first thing that we want to do whenever we dive into any piece of our life is learn how to embody our warrior more. And I invite you just to think of 5 of the top characteristics of your warrior. Specifically, how do you want to be in relationship with another person? And if we own it and really claim, this is how I want to be in relationship with another person, then it's in our consciousness and it's ahead of us so we can move into it. Oftentimes we regret things that happened in relationship and we have the if only conversation. If only I'd done this, if only I'd not said that, if only I'd known. And so embodying the warrior, at least the top characteristics of who you want to be when you're in a relationship with other people, starts to move that relationship muscle. So if you're in a career right now and you want to work this relationship muscle, before you go into a meeting, before you have a conversation, think, okay, I'm embodying these characteristics in this communication. Before you send an email, before you meet for lunch. This is literally how you step into and own how you want to be. So who would love to share, just pop share, unmute and say, what's one of the core qualities that you know you want to embody as your warrior in relationship to other human beings? I want to hear some of these. So don't worry about talking over each other. Just unmute and say a quality.
Honesty.
Honesty. Yes, honest. Thank
Clear
you.
communication.
Clear communication. Yes.
Vulnerability.
Vulnerable. Yes.
Courage.
Courage. Courageous.
Courageous.
Yes.
Courageous. Yes.
Patient.
Patient. Yes. Patient.
Same page, Brian. I was going to say courage as well.
Courage times 2. Got it.
Caring.
Caring. Yes. Matthew, I want to hear from you too. Empathetic. Thank you, Terry. Matthew, I want to hear from you. Where's he at?
Yeah, those all sound good to me. I mean,
You're awesome. And give me one more.
I just direct.
Direct.
It could be direct.
Thank you very much. I love it. I like putting my introverts on the spot. Because I love introverts so much. Shanna, did you say one?
I said clear communication.
Okay, there you go. And I got that now. I was like, hear all these voices. Any other? So we've got honest, clear communication, vulnerable, courageous, patient, caring, empathetic, direct.
Thoughtful and considerate.
Oh, thoughtful. I'm gonna put that as 2.
Yeah, I was going to say respectful.
Yeah. I'm gonna say the word open. That's one of my buzzwords. I think I've said it before. Whenever I feel my nervous system shutting down, I literally feel it shutting down, my breath shutting down, my shoulders coming in. I can feel it. And I know most of us can feel that happening. My word to bring myself back in state for my warriors, open. Because the parts of me that feel triggered are the ones that all of a sudden in an instant don't feel safe. We're not going to have the trigger not happen. The trigger is going to happen. But what do we do to get back in state as fast as possible? And for me, it's a word, and my word is open. So I can open the shoulders, open the breath, open the mind, open the heart. So this first step is, thank you everybody for sharing. Thank you so much. So this first step is remember those qualities and step into them, own them. For the coaches, in fact, as a reminder, if you have not seen the emails, we have a coaches / leadership certification training happening here. It starts the evening of the 20th, and then it's all day on the 21st, all day on the 22nd here in Houston, where I train people in the modalities of communication, these strategies. We call it's active coaching. So it's not just sitting there, oh, tell me about your day. There's actual use of these tool sets and questions and engagement in the world that shifts your perspectives and your way of being. So if you're interested in that, that training happens, I guess, in almost 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. And we still have room if you're interested. And so the first thing is embodying your warrior. What I was going to say there is that the bonfire coaches, whenever people step in and say, hey, I want to work with bonfire clients, one of our first ways of being is to get into an energy rich state before you talk to your client, show up for your client, meet in a session, follow up with your client, anything. You get yourself in state, because our energy will affect the other person. And when we feel open and vulnerable and honest and have clear communication, commitment to that patient, caring, empathetic, direct, thoughtful, considerate, respectful, whenever we have that way of being with another, it allows them to feel that relaxation of that same energy so that we can meet in that frequency. And even if they aren't in that state, it allows us to receive them without taking things personally. So the next piece, in fact, this should say step 2. I'll fix that before I hand it to you guys in the replay. Step 2 would be to know your trigger map. This is important. I mean, this is humble making stuff to understand, whoa, this is how I get triggered. Whoa, I don't like it whenever I hear that tone of voice. Whoa, whenever somebody puts their hand on their hip like that, I like, whoa, I like put my dukes up internally. I go, I'm ready for you. I don't know what's coming. Or when people say, one of mine in the past was, we need to talk. Whenever I hear that phrase, we need to talk, I'm like, oh, we do. And I go, I don't know about this. Maybe I'm not ready to talk. You know, and so like my child would come out, my little inner sass would come out. And I'm like, but that's the same thing in the weekend. Whenever I told Shanita, you look so purple. So how we receive words can trigger patterns in us of responses. So we must know our trigger map. And to me, I now dive into it with a curiosity of how are my triggers now, because they evolve. You know, the more we grow, mature, and own ourselves, we get to look at our triggers. Now, in the weekend, we didn't get to look at this very directly as a group. So let's just run through this. And you get to look at, well, what are my triggers? And you may have triggers that are not even on this list. So sometimes people tend to run away or avoid conflict because we talked about this earlier. The insecurities don't feel we have enough energy, capacity, strategy. Some people think I need a hard shell to be in conflict. What if you need an openness instead of a hard shell? Another trigger would be, I just, as soon as I feel as though it's weighing not in my favor, I'll just give in. I give up, right? When people aren't approving of someone, of a person, and they sense being not approved of, it triggers a response. So sometimes we get loud when we're triggered, sometimes we go quiet, sometimes we run away, sometimes we get self-righteous. Those are the boxes, right? But these are needed, and they're in your workbook, and they're also in they're going to be in the replay. This one was fun. We have a client that's in this one right here down the bottom. It says, I tend to agree with everything. And she noticed this about herself, that she says yes a lot. However, there's certain things you want to say no to. And so she's like, wait a second, I said yes, and I didn't mean to say yes. Now I've got to get myself out of the yes. And I don't have I don't know how to renegotiate. So she just stacks things on top of her plate. Anybody ever do this? You say yes to everything and you just like, don't know what to do now. So that can be, it's a trigger because then you're out of energy and then everything feels like it's on top of you, right? It's very people-y out there. It is, Shannon. It's very people-y out there. That's a wonderful term. I love that. Very people-y out there. It is. There's so many people. So once you understand your triggers, when you're in relationships, the want here is for you to own your triggers. Triggers are personal. However, people aren't walking around wanting to, well, growing up, I thought my brother did have this intention to just poke at me as much as he could. Poke the bear, right? Just to see when I'd explode. But hopefully we're beyond that. We're adults. However, the triggers, whenever we get triggered, it's really our responsibility to become untriggered, to own it, and to understand what's going on there. Any questions about triggers or thoughts around triggers? And I can't see everybody because I'm sharing my screen. So just unmute if you'd love to say something about triggers. Or a question about, is this a trigger? Is that a trigger? What do you do here? If anybody has a question.
Well, something. You're right
Yes,
in the middle of the screen. When we push away another, we are in the deepest illusion of safety. Could you just give a few sentences on
Yes.
the deeper meaning of that? It's very powerful. I just want to get a deeper meaning.
Thank you, Brian. So what's the number one human need?
Safety.
Certainty,
Certainty,
safety, right? And so if unconsciously we don't feel safe, usually we think we don't feel safe with another person, and that's how we learn personal development. Usually, personal development, people put their toe in the water of personal development because they want to fix a relationship. They're like, this isn't working. How do I fix this other person? And so we go into personal development because we're wanting to change another person or change the circumstances of a relationship because we find ourselves in pain. Moving away from another person, moving away from a relationship. Blaming is another form of pushing another person away. We blame them. We criticize, the 5 C's. Comparing, criticizing, condemning, commiserating, comparing, all those create pain. When we push another person away, either by saying things that are mean, accusations, judgments, sharing missed expectations if we didn't clearly communicate those expectations in the beginning, all those, by pushing another person away, that leaves us alone. And alone is the deepest illusion of safety, because we're not safe in aloneness, because people are everywhere. We're not truly alone. So we're doing the very thing that we think is going to have us feel better, but even aloneness is not safe. So it's a huge illusion. We're fooling ourselves. The more courageous or heartfelt thing is what we're learning here, is to lean into it. If we get triggered, get curious. I'm not saying it happens instantaneously. Did I share the pause button worksheets during this class just yet? Have I changed? Okay, so I will share on this replay. I don't know if I have time tonight, but the pause button. I'm going to show you how to hit the pause button. When we learn to allow the emotion to be there, but not take it out on another person. I'm having a hurt emotion. I'm having a triggered emotion. We can allow our feelings to be there, and in the same time, not push the other person away. In fact, I haven't approved this with Jackie. However, I think she'd be okay with me sharing that we have a vow. She's like, eyebrows went up. What are you sharing, woman? Eyebrows went up. We have a vow to each other to never speak ill of each other toward each other, especially, or in relationship to any other person on the planet ever. So in our relationship, you will have never heard me say anything that disparages Jackie, puts her in an ill or dim light, or a negative sense. I not build her up to, be in an illusion of just building her up, but I want to honor our trust. And the first way people break trust with one another is to speak of the other person ill behind their back. Even if the other person doesn't know that happened, there's an energy that does exist in that relationship now. And you can, and I've helped couples do this, where you can apologize even when the person wasn't there. I said this to this person, I apologize, and bring that other person in, I apologize. This isn't the truth. Our relationship is this way. The reason, the way infidelity happens, I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. The way infidelities happen is because a wedge comes in where someone has spoken ill of their spouse to another person, and now there's an opening there for another person to fill that void. And so, did that answer your question? Because the illusion is, if we push away the things that's most painful, we're safe. And the truth is we're not, because we've pushed ourselves into loneliness and we never faced it. Does that help, Brian?
Very good. Thank you.
And so whenever I'm working with couples, or any of our coaches are working with couples, one thing we do is an inventory, and it's very honest making. Each person goes into an inventory of who have you spoken to about your marriage, about your relationship. Who's in the circle, basically. We're not just in relationship with one person now, we're in relationship what we call two armies. I can go into that another time if you guys are interested. There's a course that I do called Rekindle. It's rekindling the love in a relationship, and how do we heal those places where trust has been hurt. So we know our trigger map, we communicate these. Now, some people say, wait a second, I communicate my trigger map to my boss? Yes. So if you're in a career and there are different triggers for career that sound more career-like. So it's like, you would take your boss to lunch, have a one-on-one, maybe over a cup of coffee, something, like something I like to do with my leadership is to own how I personally get triggered in a work environment, so that you can know, and I'll know that I've communicated this, not so that you fix it and not so you change your behavior, but simply so we can have a communication. So when you notice the energy change in me, I can say, this is one of those times, and I'm owning it. And then we can talk through it. So a career trigger would be, when I'm left out of a communication that involves me on a project and I've got a role in that project, yet there was another communication that happened on the side, and then I was either assumed to have known what happened or not invited to that meeting. There's a part of me that can feel left out, and I can just feel like that's a pain that I have to now communicate and get through. Another professional communication or a pain or a trigger Could be whenever I get passed over. You know, so if I ever feel like I'm being passed over for a project, whenever I feel like I'm being passed over for a responsibility that I think I've earned, would it be safe for me to come and talk to you about it? Not because I want you to fix it, but just so that I can clear the air and you can help me understand where your decision was so that I can, you know, rebuild that connection with you. So it takes a lot of courage to have professional and even intimate relationship courage to say, this is my trigger, this is how I own it, and this is how I show up. And I want to have these open dialogues so that I can understand your point of view. Because if I go off on my tangent and down my train tracks of my point of view only, I know that I will probably have a very dim view of how things actually went down. So in your worksheet, how do you push away relating to others? Because there'll be a need that you're getting met. Usually we're making ourselves certain, we're making ourselves significant, we want to be right. But another one here is, I said this a long time ago, is if I win and you lose, I've lost something sacred between us. So it's absolutely damaged, and it takes a lot of courage to rebuild those connections. It's not impossible. It takes honesty, which was one of our core values here. This is the relationship inventory I wanted us to get to. So, not all relationships have this depth of meaning to you, right? We're in relationship with so many people in our lives, and there are few that will be part of our fabric. And so here, who are you in relationship with, whom you admire, respect, love, and trust? And I'd invite you to write those, you know, really spend time with this worksheet. We're going to get to the place where this is transformational for you. We need to do inventory first. Who are you in relationship with you do not admire, respect, love, or trust? Sometimes we are in relationships with others. I'm going to turn the light on. With people we do not admire, respect, love, or trust. Then the question behind that one is, of these relationships, which ones would you love to strengthen? Not like to strengthen, not which ones do I have to strengthen because I have to get along with this person, but which one of these would you love to strengthen? You may want to love to strengthen the people you already admire, love, respect, and trust. Yay. You may want to say, you know, I think there's capacity for me to strengthen the relationship that I have with someone that I've lost trust with, or I've lost respect, or I've lost connection with, right? And then, so which relationships would you love to heal? We may want to strengthen relationships, and then there's some relationships that we need to go in and heal because they matter that much to us. And then the last inventory question is, what relationships are you ready to move beyond and let go? There's some people that take up real estate in our mind, and they need not take up any more real estate. And they could be relationships where you got hurt, where there was trauma, where there was maybe abuse, where there was betrayal. But to move beyond those means let the past be in the past. Like we talked about the difference between etiology and teleology and etiology. Teleology is like, I have direct responsibility for the moment here. I'm not going to let the past define my present. I'm not going to let the past define my future. And so really moving beyond means not carrying any sabotage thoughts of, well, what if I get hurt again? If you let it go, that wouldn't be part of your thinking. If you truly let hurt, abuse, betrayal go, the thought of, what if I get hurt again if I love again, would not be there. And there's some strategies here on moving beyond and letting go of relationships that either mattered a lot. So some people have lost a loved one. You know, their loved one is no longer with them. It's not like we want to not have that relationship, or we want to not carry the hurt of that relationship. We want to carry the beauty of that relationship forward, so we can let parts of the pain of a relationship go, so they don't affect or infect the future relationships or current relationships we're in. And then the last part here is, what would you now love to have unfold in the relationship? And it may be only one or two. We get to use these tools in the more meaningful relationships, are the ones that feel more strategic for us in our life right now. Right. This is one thing, I put this in there because I went through, I use the note thing, the note function of my phone, and I'm always making notes. I mean, like Jackie watches me and I'm like, here, can you text me this? Because I want to make a note about that. And so I remember I went and got my phone updated a long time ago, before Apple really thought the notes tab was important. And I'm like, I need all my notes. You can't get rid of my notes. That's my life in there. And so these are some of the notes I found in my notes tab, or my notes app. Is it takes courage to be our true selves. I call it open kimono, right? To those we cherish most. Only in our most owned essence, when we own ourselves, can we truly love or be loved, and all else is living with a barrier up. And it's imagine holding a shield. So shields, like if you've never held an actual sword or a bayonet or even a gun, a military gun, those things are heavy. I mean, like heavy, like 40 pounds heavy. These things are crazy heavy. And the shields that they had, the gladiator shields, I went to Rome and you get to hold a gladiator shield. OMG, no wonder those people were like 18 feet tall and big, because the armor was crazy, right? And so whenever we're holding up our own shields, be them psychic weight, mental or emotional weight, and we're trying to protect ourselves, Jesus, you are putting so much effort into that. And it's keeping that energy from you and from the rest of your destiny in your life. It's like just totally disturbing your field. So it's not worth it, first of all. And it's usually not even working. Like I think Brian said, it's not even working. You know, we think we're keeping ourselves protected from the people that can hurt us. Not really. You're still feeling hurt pretty much every day. I asked a client today, as he said, I'll be happy in the future. Like what, like in 5 seconds? Like what's the future? When are you going to be happy? And he's like, no, whenever I do this is this. I was like, oh, okay, we're in that story. Okay, so whenever you have the job, when you have the degree, when you have the thing, then you'll be happy. It's like, so what's in the place of that until then? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, how are you going to be until you're happy? What are you going to be? And he goes, I'm just going to be getting stuff done. I'm getting my degree. But you're not going to be happy getting your degree. You're not going to be happy doing that. So how are you going to be? And he couldn't answer the question. I'm like, well, what are you going to be? You're going to be angry? Are you going to be sad? Are you going to be mopey? How are you going to be? Are you going to be like, what are you going to be? Are you going to be like pensive? Are you going to be like academic and hard to talk to? Like, what are you going to be? And he said, I don't know. I said, well, you're not going to be happy. We already marked that one off. So you need to decide how you're going to be. And he's like, okay, fair enough. I said, but you're putting off all this happiness for the future, right? I said, is it just like stacking up, like one day in the future, all the happy will be there waiting for you because you earned it? Like you didn't get happy for all this. How many years are you going to not be happy? How many is it going to take? He's like, 4. Oh, okay, so 4 years of not happy waiting out there in the future for you. And then one day you're going to go, now I can be happy because I got this. And it's all stacked up. And then you're just going to be, woo, happy. Is that how it's going to work? So I share this example because there's parts of us that are also doing this. You know, if we're honest with ourselves, I'm not going to be happy until, you know, if it's a certain amount of weight that's off, or a health that you've achieved, or a relationship that you've achieved, or a career, or a place, or all this kind of stuff. I invite you to feel happy every single day and every moment. It's a choice. It's an absolute choice. And when you find yourself not feeling happy, wow, I wonder why I'm not feeling happy. Huh? Because it's usually an illusion. It's an illusion why you're not happy. So the other one is, when we make other people the subject of our safety and our certainty, we lose ourselves and blame them for feeling lost. That's huge. And I see it in so many people. I feel lost in my life. I don't know where to go. We feel confused. I don't, like when Amanda in the training said, I don't know, I'm confused. I'm like, hey, you're confused. Because if you're confused, then you can learn. But if you're certain, There's no learning there, right? So hopefully some of these quotes go in and rattle you around. So what I want to do now is to find, you know, anyone have something here that really stuck or that you'd like to talk through. Or have any more questions about it? Hey, you got me. Let's dig into something.
But the
Yes,
second to
Brian.
last sentence that talks about being ourselves takes courage. We literally live in a world with filters and masks. Literally, I have a friend who cannot get on camera unless she has a filter. She can't do it. It has to be a, and literally, I've seen her run away because of past, I guess, she used to be a model, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those were not a long time ago, but it was several years ago. And so she's not so much now, but she's still stuck in that phase of her life where
Yeah.
every single picture was perfect and all that, without so much filters and things of that nature. It was just like, wow, we live in this world where being yourself is one of the most courageous things you can be. So I internalize that for myself. Just being who I am is is one of the missions that I have to have in this lifetime. And that means all the so-called flaws I have. Um, just I can just give a lot of different examples, but the more I'm myself, the calmer I am, the more energy I have. People's comments are just, or whatever their little projections just bounce off. So I just wanted to mention that about that sentence about being yourself is, takes courage to do that. It's very powerful.
Yeah, thank you so much for that feedback, Brian. I think I may have shared that there was a Shannon, I like that. That's a very good look. Well, I'll do that together. I don't know. I can't do that. My lip does not do that. It doesn't say I have to hold it. I have no lips. I shared of a client who was very much in the must be seen as box and had tons of physical pain, headaches, mental pain, depression. And as we worked together, she kept coming back. And so I said, you're a gluttony for pain because I keep giving you things that you're like, I can't do this, but you do it and you keep breaking through. So one that I gave her was that she was going to go to dinner. I think I shared this in that abolish. She was going to go to dinner. Her and her husband were going to go to dinner. She's going to be dressed to the nines. And I said, I gave her that homework that I want you to burp. In the very time where everybody's having a conversation, you're just going to be there in that restaurant. And you're going to let out a big burp. Do that. But the one thing that happened was she did it and nobody noticed. Nobody said anything. I think people probably noticed, but they didn't want to say anything. So even the big, like, I'm going to be embarrassed, people are going to go, oh my God, but we put up all these facades of what we think life is going to be, and it's not. It's so much more joyful when we can let down all those facades. So who thought through those questions of a relationship? Yes, Julia.
I thought of a relationship that it's been on my mind for the past couple months, that I've been trying to ignore, but I see this person every week. It's my sister-in-law. And I love her. She's family, but she's just an energy drain. She's got a lot of physical problems, emotional problems, a lot of stuff going on. And it's just very hard for me to, I over the past couple years, I've just tried to fix her. I've tried to help her. None of that works. I've tried to get her help. None of that works. I'm just done. And so I'm hoping that this process that we're doing here can get me to a place where I can like put that to bed and find a relationship that is satisfying enough, because we still need to be in relationship. We're family,
Right.
but isn't, yeah.
May I share a story from my past that woke me up in a regard that may help you?
Yeah.
Then I can help you with a strategy to approach her.
Yeah.
So I worked with this friend. He was a dear friend. We go to lunch, we go work out together. All this kind of stuff. His name's Chris. And dear friend. And I felt him such a dear friend, and I didn't realize this, but I would just complain about my previous marriage. I just complain. I didn't hear myself complaining. I heard myself talking. I just heard myself having a conversation with my friend.
Mm.
And he was receptive. He never cut me off. I kept talking because he kept listening. So he takes a job at another company, and we see each other now probably once every 6 months, and more time had gone by, and it was my birthday. And he said, I want to take you out for your birthday. And so we did. And I remember he's sitting across the table, and he said, I love you, right? And I said, yes, I do. Thank you so much. And he said, I want to give you some feedback, and this is from the heart, and I really need you to hear me. And I said, okay, like what? And he said, it's hard to be around you. I find it hard to be around you many times because the majority of the conversations that you have are complaining about your marriage. You're complaining about your husband. You're complaining about your life. And there's nothing I can do to help you in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I'd like the conversations we have to not be about the things that are bad in your life, but the things that are good in your life. And I really want you to be happy in your life. And I know that I can't make you happy, but as your friend, I'd like to not have all you do in our conversation is complain. I remember that, and it hit me. And I was like, okay. And he was right. And so I was being disrespectful of him by just dumping on him and leaning on him. Is like, if he were staying in front of me, I'm just hanging on him, just hanging on him and not letting him have an experience of our friendship that isn't just me bitching, right? And so I remember sitting there and went, wow, thank you. I needed to hear that. You're right. Okay. And he said, so what can we talk about that isn't your husband? And I said, let's find some things we can talk about. And so from that moment on, he and I developed a friendship around the beauty of life as opposed to the pain of life. And he also told me, he said, you're the only one that can make the changes in your relationship. And if you continue to complain about it, you're not going to make any changes. You're just going to talk about it. And Chris Cruzado was one of my deepest teachers. And I started owning that I was unhappy and deciding what I would do about it instead of complain about it. So a possibility for you and your sister-in-law is in a private moment. They say, I care about you. And often it seems that the conversations we're having are about things you're unhappy about.
Mm-hmm.
How I feel whenever I'm in that communication with you is I can't help you in them. And it feels like the conversation's not really going anywhere. And I'd really like to have conversations with you that are joyful and conversations with you that are what you enjoy in life and what's beautiful. And so that we can have that level of relationship. And I'm sorry you're going through those things that you're not happy about, but I trust you to make the changes you need to make in your own life.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's good.
And had Chris not said that, he may have just decided, I don't want to have this relationship anymore. I can't stand it anymore. I'm out of here, which would have been heartbreaking to me because I adored our friendship. He's passed on. But then I wouldn't have grown up. I needed to grow up, and I needed to own that. Yeah, there were segments of my life that I wasn't happy about. It's another thing is that whenever we have an angst or a pain and we feed it out into people and we just talk about it, we don't take action because we're finding relief. We actually get our needs met by complaining about it. And if we just complain about it, we don't take action. But it feels like there's some endorphin release there and we can just put up with it a little bit longer.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's good. Thank you.
Does that help?
Yes, absolutely. I'm
Thank
taking notes.
You're welcome. Did this help anybody else? Raise your hand if that also helped you. See, when one person shares, we help a lot of people
Yeah,
because we're all in relationship with
yeah,
people.
yeah.
It's very people-y out there, as Shanna said.
Very peoply.
Very people-y. Anybody else have any relationships that came through, even if it's a relationship you want to have be even more rich and more connected, and you're not sure how to go there? It doesn't have to just be the relationships that are painful or wanting change in that way. You want me to share the questions again? Sherry. Yeah, they're in the chat. Yeah, they are in the chat. Going once, going twice. Yes, Kara.
That very last question about which relationships are you ready to, let go of?
Mhm.
And it's interesting when you go back and you think of those relationships, and when you're thinking, wow, this one will never end.
Mm.
And then it did. And as you sit down and you kind of process that, you realize, oh, this is one of those relationships that needs to be let go, and I need to mourn it and let it go. And it's like you said, oh my God, lifted a huge weight off of me when it happened, and it hit me. It
Mm.
needed to happen. So
Yeah. So question, if that person called you right now, what would be your nervous response?
not a very nice one. I have to be honest.
So it's not healed.
No, no. And I don't know if I want it to, or even if the possibility is there,
Mhm.
which is why that question struck me so much. Is
Mhm.
sometimes we don't realize
Yeah.
there are some there that we do need to let go of, regardless of how
Totally.
much we want to hold on to them.
Yeah. To know that we've let go of it fully is that they could show up at your doorstep and you not have a reaction.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
can tell you, there's a couple right now in my life that I'm working on that with.
Okay. I'm working on that one then.
And how I know that it happened for me, where there was one relationship is with my ex, the father of my children. My daughter had a baby shower last year. And we hosted it. I was going to host it at a restaurant, right? Like, that's neutral ground. They can clean up the dishes. I was like, that's cool. Let's do it somewhere else. And then she said, well, can we have it at your house? And so, I asked Jackie, and we're like, yeah, we can have it at the house. And so then I was like, okay, we're going to have it at the house. But I needed a boundary. I wanted a boundary. It's like, okay, so you're going to have your own baby shower with your dad over at his place, right? And then we'll have the baby shower here. And I was like, that sounds safe, right? I was trying to manage safety in my own nervous system. And she's like, yeah, we don't need to have dad. No, we're doing it with dad separate. Sounds great. 2 days before the baby shower here, we decorated. It's awesome. Everything's planned. 2 days. She goes, oh, I hope it's okay, but I invited dad. And you can ask Jackie. I was like, oh my God, let's go to the house. Oh my God, we're going to sage everything. And I was like, doing this stuff. And so I was realizing, okay, T, you haven't let go of that relationship. It's still in the ouch column.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did not want to face that. I was like, oh crap. I was like, I thought I've already done all my work on this. And the universe is going, no, you have not. And so I was like, oh, and it, even to the morning of, I'm like over here going, how am I going to be? How am I going to be? Oh my God. It was just and so the baby shower was like this big Tina Marie's learning experience, and everything's a learning experience. And so I had built up this entire impression of how he was going to be and what I had to have as a defense mechanism. And I was ready with my comebacks, and I had my one-liners, and I had already. And then I realized, you are efforting so much, woman. You're going to take the joy out of the baby shower. And so like Brian, I was efforting. I was like, my shields were up and I was holding them steady and I was ready with all my weapons. I was like, this is bullshit, woman. Stop it. And so I greeted him. It was great. He came in the house. He was very pleasant. Everything was cordial. He loves Jackie and I. He complimented the house. It was awesome, actually. Right, Jackie? It was awesome. And here I am building up this defense mechanism of the worst case scenario and everything blowing up. That was me. That was me. That was the little saboteur brain over there. And so in your warrior, how do you want to show up? That's what we own. How do you want to show up? Not how you believe you have to show up, but how do you want to show up? And so if Rick Jones knocked on our door right now, I'd be curious, like, hey, what's going on? Come on in. What do you need? It'd be completely different. Completely different. Be called right now. What do you need? Change the entire landscape of that relationship. So thanks for sharing, Kara. We need everyone to be able to walk down the hallway of our mind and not be harmed. And that takes a lot of work. A lot of courage. Who is sharing? Sherry?
Yeah, trying to find the way to phrase this, but it's kind of like you are in relationship with another person, and you're two molecules. And hydrogen and oxygen are going to combine to make water. You know, oxygen and carbon are going to combine to make carbon monoxide.
Mm-hmm.
Oxygen cannot combine with carbon to make water. It doesn't happen. So when you change how you show up, now the structure of the entire thing has to change. It has no other choice.
Yeah, you change the dance changes. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get to change the dance. Not because we have to, but there's something inside of us knowing that it's the right thing. And not right as far as right or wrong, but just there's some leveling of the frequencies and the energy that's being put out. And warriors stand up. And warriors own themselves in relationship. And I can tell you this, whenever we own ourselves and we own our emotions, we own our way of being and our thoughts, and we have this courageous way of communicating, that is freaking attractive. It is. You talk about sexy, that is sexy. If you're talking about your intimate relationship, game on, baby. That's the person people want to be in relationship with, not the ones that are work. Jackie and I both agreed at the beginning of a relationship, we are never going to work on our relationship. Because who wants to freaking work on a relationship? Let's be in a relationship and dance in it and discover and have courage and allowing. And, you know, is it perfect's the lowest standard? But, you know, I'm grateful for our relationship because I get to grow through it. Trust me, I have lots of growth to do. I get to. It's awesome. No more baby showers. Well, maybe, but that was a doozy last year. I was like, wow, didn't know that was there. Anybody else? Any questions on that worksheet? Who's going to do this work for yourself? Who's going to do this work? You know, warriors do the work. Any questions about relationship? Who would love to have healing in some relationships?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Hi,
Kristen and then Julie. Oh, Julie was answering my question. Yes. Kristen.
sorry. So, I noticed on the last question of the worksheet, and I heard you mention that there are some tools for just like leaving the relationship. I don't remember exactly what was said, but the question is, could you share some of those tools? For leaving
Letting
the
a relationship go, the letting of a relationship go.
Yes.
Okay, so there's some really cool ones. One, I'll just say the sacred cord clearing works. So if you don't yet have a sacred cord clearing kit or the sacred cord clearing, I sent you guys that exercise or that worksheet in the last. And so Kenneth gave me a thumbs up. So I gave you some work on that for sacred chord clearing. But that stuff works, right? Crazy. Like one of my clients, Amy, she was coaching with me, and there was a guy that she'd broken up with, and I helped her through that breakup. She got her courage on, she said her words, she broke up, she moved out, she had her own place. We were done with her coaching, and then she calls me one night. I was actually over at Jackie's when she called, and we were dating, and she's like, he keeps stalking me, he keeps showing up at my apartment, what do I do? He's like crazy, he's following me to work, I'm scared. I said, first, if you feel unsafe, notify the authorities, involve the authorities. Second, I want you to do the sacred chord clearing. So I gave her the sacred chord clearing that night. She did it. The next day he called her and said, will you stop stalking me? I need you out of my life. Will you stop calling me? I don't want to talk to you anymore. And she calls me and goes, that's weird. He thinks I'm the one stalking him. I said, what'd you say? She said, sounds good. I will. I'll just stop calling you. like it reversed everything. So the sacred chord clearing is pretty amazing. Can't explain it. It's woo-woo. Second is, if you're wanting to shift the energy of the relationship and not be disrespectful in that, because we want to maintain our way of being as our human, right? Change, if the person happens to be in your phone as a contact, make them initials, reduce them to initials. We're not reducing the person, we're reducing them and their identity to initials, and then reverse them. So let's say if it's John Smith, then instead of being John Smith, it would be JS, and instead of JS, it would be SJ. The reason why is it changes the connection in the brain, because you're going to go, who's calling me? And it stops being a trigger because you don't know who that person is. And it's a pattern interrupt. The other is whenever you're saying their name, if you're right dominant and you're going to say this person's name, hold up your left hand and say their name. Not like, oh, but just hold up your left hand. It interrupts the pulling of the memory out of your brain into a different pattern. And it's usually memories going in our right dominant side. So undo it through a left hand raise. And it takes a little work. If you say it first time, and then, oh, I just said their name. Okay, now I'm going to raise my left hand. I'm going to redo and repatterning that memory. It takes the edge off of those memories. Is there anything specific, Kristen, that is painful in regard to this relationship where you're referring to that I could more specifically give you a strategy for?
Oh, wow. Oh, well, yes, ma'am, absolutely. And I just don't think we have time for all that.
Maybe we can talk about that at another time.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is a long-term relationship that I've been trying to remove from my life for almost a year now. It's one that was gone, happily gone, and somehow made its way back in. And I'm different now. I'm a different person now. So it's just not welcome here anymore. But not quite sure how to just cut that cord, although you've given me a tool. It's funny that you say the name deal in the phone with the initials. This person happens to have the same initials going both ways. So that won't work.
Put another
yeah.
letter in between it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. So,
or reduce it to lowercase.
Yeah, or just.
So there's a comedian, I can't remember his name right now. He says that I'll remember it and I'll put it in our chat. He's hilarious. But he says, you never really know what you mean to a woman until you see how they've stored your name in their phone, right? And so he found out that whenever he was looking for his phone, and so she's like, well, call me and then I'll call you and find the phone. And so then he glanced and went, she called him, and in the phone he was stored as no chance. And so it's like,
Okay.
No chance. It's funny, he's a comedian, but you want a pattern interrupt. So whenever you have the identity and it's solidified and you don't have a who is that, we want to create the who is that. And it's not just deleting them from the phone, it becomes numbers, because eventually you'll look at the patterns of numbers, make it a different alpha identifier, and it changes it. Don't be disparaging. That's not who you are as a warrior. Be, be more strategic.
Right. And I'm trying to identify what part of that relationship is still serving me.
It is. I was going to ask you, what needs are you getting met by having that relationship? Because that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. And I haven't been able to determine that yet.
Get a workbook from the office. And there is a human needs design. How do you get your human needs in a positive way and a negative way? Even if we're getting our needs met in a negative way, we're still getting our needs met.
Right. Yeah.
So there's something definitely there, in a certainty pattern that's serving you in some way, or the relationship would not be there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Visualize. Do you like boats, or what? Do you like cars or anything?
Do I like boats?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I like boats.
You like boats? Okay. So visualize this person has a boat in your dock. You're going to get his boat out of your dock. So just visualize that boat backing up and going off.
Yeah.
And it is gone, and you've got a free slot. It's not free, but it is a slot, and it is your slot. You own it. So I tell my ladies, get his boat out of your dock. So Shanna's like laughing. It is not a free slot.
Yeah, that's cool.
Fun.
Thank you.
You got this. You got this. Keep us posted. So we're at the place where we're going to go through takeaways. You've got this worksheet. Use it. Do it. Be honest with yourself. The whole course is about being honest with yourself. Nobody else can be honest with us unless we're honest with ourselves first. If you've ever attracted people that lie to you or are betraying you, somewhere you're lying to yourself, or you're avoidant of the truth. This is where we get to tell the truth to ourselves first. So I'm going to go around our Brady Bunch and say, what's a takeaway from tonight's class that made your time here absolutely worth it? And Terry, I will be calling on you even though I don't see your face. Same with Jax. So it's going to go Kristen, then Brian, then Matthew, then Shannon. Takeaways.
Sure. Yes, ma'am. So when I was still driving, I believe Julia was speaking about being at a church event, and she was mentioning that she was instead of doing, she was just being and working on like forming some relationships. And so for tonight in particular, that stood out to me because that's something that I'm interested in doing more of is being, not doing.
Wonderful.
So thanks for that, Julia.
Thank you, Julia.
Welcome.
And
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah, what I took away from tonight is that in relationships, when we're trying to navigate them, we need to have a lot of different perspectives. So we can have a perspective for ourselves, so to speak, in the shoes of our intimate partners or family or things of that nature, without necessarily internalizing their position or how they feel. But opening up those perspectives allows us to be able to process what we're experiencing with them easier. So I just remember perspectives and being open, like you mentioned, to what they're experiencing as well as what we're experiencing, and not letting our triggers cause us to harm relationships when that's not necessary to do.
Yeah, beautiful. Way to go. Thanks for that takeaway. All triggers are personal. They don't involve the other person, honestly. I dropped a book in the chat that Brian, by your share, triggered positively for me to remember that this book, if you want to dive into an understanding of relating, especially intimate relationships, in a way that is counterculture, to the way most people see relating in an intimate way, that book is, to me, it's the most truthful, most raw, most honest. In one of my talks I gave, I said that to truly love someone is to allow them to grow and be and have the full experience of their life and to not hold them back. And in modern culture, we want to have relationships have so many rules to them, and those rules become chains. And we as a being do not want to be chained down. So the most courageous love is the most free love. And I'm not talking about free love of the 60s. I'm talking about allowing somebody to truly grow and be and share themselves with you without any fear that they'll be judged. Matthew, then Shanna, then Dr. J. And Brielle is being held by Dr. J. Matthew, what is the takeaway for you tonight?
I'm not sure what to say. Like I don't really have any important relationships in my life right now. And a lot of this is stuff I've spent a lot of time thinking about and reviewing past relationships.
Did any of the shares that people shared, did anything spark a thought in you or a notable insight for you from another person's share?
Not really. I mean,
I appreciate your thoughtfulness.
you know, like for me, the relationship that's I had to let go of was with my father, and you know, like when somebody else isn't willing to like even listen to your perspective, there's not much you can do.
Yeah, well, we'll look at that over the next couple of classes. Your way of being can definitely influence them. You know, you coming from your most heartfelt place and allowing them, like we talked about Sherry's father, he's got this catastrophically awfulness. So Sherry gets to be Sherry in the midst of Dad's viewpoint of his world, and Matthew gets to be full Matthew. And I feel like there's a part of you stepping into you in a whole new way, despite the relationship with Dad.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Awesome. Thank you for your share.
Literally.
Dr. J, and then Carolina, and then Sherry, and then Terry. Shanna's first, and then Dr. J.
For me, I think that I just been noticing more of my own patterns. Like since I'm in like what I would consider to be my first healthy relationship, I can like reflect on the previous ones and see where I did maybe some of the things that caused the wedge, or how I would like expect it. Like if I communicated my triggers, why didn't you, change or respect them? And so now just being more accountable and seeing the growth in myself of, this journey that I've been on for a bit now.
That's awesome. Way to go. Now you have a new perspective on how to share the triggers. and puppies abound. Puppies abound.
Yes. Puppies abound.
Yes, thank you so much. Dr. J, then someone dropped off, it seems. Dr. J, then Sherry, then Carolina.
Honestly, my biggest takeaway for today is being excited that my sister actually freaking worked out. And just being able to sit still.
Yeah.
Had a go day.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Sherry, Carolina, then Kara.
I think the pressure release of the complaining hit different this time. Like, little less talk, a lot more action. And if you're doing more talk, then you're going to have less action because you're releasing the pressure. And I knew that, but it hit different. I don't know how to explain it.
No problem. It's awesome. Yeah, don't take the pressure off so the change can happen. Awesome. Way to go. Carolina, Kara, then Cindy.
I mean, there's several takeaways. I
We'll do
think
Carolina after Kara. Okay, Kara. Yeah, go ahead.
several takeaways. I think probably one of the biggest ones is kind of what I started with my wins is taking this trigger map and kind of starting at ground zero. Looking at the list there, I was like, well, I know that used to be a trigger, but I know it's not a trigger anymore. So I think taking it back to ground zero and kind of seeing that and what's changed between before and now, and then looking at it, utilizing this, what can I continue to change going forward?
Beautiful. Congratulations. Yes, the growth. Celebrate your growth. Definitely. Carolina, then Cindy, then Julia.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, so there is so much here, and it's very deep and incisive, and it's looking forward to doing this work because it's interesting. I've been focusing on health, on working out, on my form, on my work, and I've been working on all these other areas and not my relationships. And I was like, oh. So I felt triggered.
Wiggly.
So I felt the pokes and I'm like, okay, so I do have some things I want to look at. And so this whole class was a takeaway in itself. And I'm so glad you had it and that it is part of embodying your freedom. And it's kind of obvious. I'm like, of course, relationships are part of our freedom. And I've been more selective in the past year and a half with where and with who I spend my time and energy with.
Beautiful.
Y'all hear my cat? No? Okay, good.
No.
And one thing that you said was it's nice to be able to walk through the hallways of your memory without feeling triggered or without feeling anything, I guess, negative. Is that what you said?
Yeah, without harming another person.
Without harming another person. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing you said that I really liked is something about a woman or a man, anyone who can speak their mind or show up in a relationship with confidence, empowered, is sexy. What were you saying?
When we own our own emotions and not make it the other person's reason why we're feeling a certain way, when we own our own thoughts and beliefs and core values and can communicate those, not to manipulate or bring somebody on board or make sure we're okay because we are in alignment with them, when we can own ourselves 100% and be in relationship with the other person, which is in that book, Intimacy by Osho. When we have that, that is true, like sexiness. We're not making anybody else responsible for us in any way. We own ourselves 100%. Now that's a relationship. And then we encourage them to be 100% them. But so often we make other people objects of our own certainty and our own significance and our own safety and way of being and all this kind of stuff. And I like that the love languages came out. It's fun. We can receive love in a certain way, but we need to know how to communicate that clearly and not make the other person wrong if they don't meet our love languages. We chose them. Like, why would you make somebody else wrong that you're in love with just because they're not doing something in a certain way? It's called growing up. Do things for yourself. And then share yourself with another person, not because You want them to fill you. Like we said last week, that whole, my pendant that has holes in it. Don't let anybody else fill your holes. You fill your holes. That is truly sexy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And maybe my beloved can talk about that someday. She can give some reflection. I'll just sit here and listen to her feedback. Because we're in partnership, and I know she has beautiful, wise words and relationships as well. Kara, oh, we already did Kara. Cindy, then Julia, then we'll wrap it up with Kenneth in HTX. Yes, Cindy.
Okay, so my big takeaway is gratitude. First of all, just gratitude for all of you, for this group. And second of all, gratitude for the fact that there are tools to be able to improve relationships, move on from relationships, heal from relationships, and that boundaries, you mentioned boundaries when you were talking earlier, and boundaries can are an important part of that. And so just reminding, because I hadn't really thought about relationships like having to work on anything in a long time. I think our family has always been, we learned how to work on our relationships when we were growing up. And that was always pretty powerful. But it's nice to kind of reflect on that, hey, those tools are still there. And whenever those triggers come along, because they do, then we still have those tools that we can use to not be stuck in those triggers. So,
beautiful. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. There's a saying, and I'm probably not going to remember this correctly. Something like small minds talk about people and higher minds or something like that talk about ideas or solutions. It's like when we find ourselves talking about people, we're living a lesser version of ourselves, unless we're, congratulating or gratitude, but talking about people that did this and people that didn't do that, that kind of conversation. But the higher mind is the one that's talking about solutions, right? And where things are going. Cool. Julia, then.
So my takeaway is about triggers. And before this session, I had always thought that people triggered me. Like they were the ones that triggered me. It's all their fault.
That's Saboteur's version.
Yeah, it's all their fault. Stop triggering me.
Of course it is, doggone
Stop
people.
it. Yeah. But now I'm seeing it as though, they're my triggers, I own them, and I can communicate to the people that I know that I care about, hey, these are my triggers, and I want you to know them so that we together can work on that. Yeah.
It's definitely powerful. Awesome. Thank you so much, Julia. Kenneth, and then Terry's back. So we're taking takeaways. Terry, if you can share, we're gonna in fact, Terry, you go first and give a takeaway, and then we're gonna wrap up with Kenneth, because I want to wrap up with our masculine energy with a sunset in the background.
Awesome. Y'all, I'm so sorry about that. My phone actually died in the middle of Matthew's share, so I missed the end of it, and I've been trying to charge ever since. So finally,
there you are.
Betty just gave me her phone, so I'm so sorry.
No
takeaway from me is I really liked your pact, the pact that you and Jackie have about never to speak ill to one another.
Or about each other in relationship with anyone else.
Right. So that really resonated with me. And then I feel I have some work to do in terms of relationships. One relationship that I would rather do without is my dad's wife. I have a really hard time with that relationship. And so that one needs a lot of work for me to be more receptive to it. And we know I try to be cordial on my end, but she does not always make that easy. And then I'd also like to try to have a relationship with my nieces. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done there too, because my brother and sister-in-law basically kept them separated from our entire side of the family. So,
so something there, I'll get some feedback. And I heard you, and I applaud you for recognizing these in yourself and wanting to commit to that journey. When we are building these wants for ourselves, listen to the use of the word because. So 2 classes ago, I think I talked about the because, that's the lowercase because, which is the sabotaged excuse reason why things are. And then there's a capital, all capital letters because the warrior's saying, I now am moving into this. So Terry, the invitation there is this relationship with your nieces, despite the past, you now get to decide what you would love and create it fresh with nothing in the background. I wouldn't even tell the story of what's happened in the background or what's happened up till now, because it has no bearing on this at all. You get to form a relationship with your nieces that are based on now and your future. That's what a warrior would do. Deal?
Perfect. Yes, love it.
Awesome. Deal. Kenneth, take us home. What are some takeaways from Kenneth?
There are a lot of great takeaways tonight, but the one that I want to share is it's a quote that you put on the handouts. When we make another person the subject of our safety and certainty, we lose ourselves and blame them for feeling lost. That one, like it struck a chord in me. And I've got a little bit of unpacking to do there, but my big takeaway is be in charge of my own safety and certainty.
There you go. Own it 100%. Said the warrior going into a battle of spirit in this world. Love you guys. So post what are your takeaways? And I knew I was going to do a drawing tonight. I'm going to do a drawing next week with all the comments. I didn't take an inventory of all the comments yet this week. So the counter is still going for all the comments and shares and things of that nature. And we'll do the drawing next week, I promise. And next week, I forget where we are in the course. So I've got to go back to my own notes and find out where we are. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be powerful. And so I bless you all, and, do this work, do the work on the relationships. And even don't be surprised if you don't have a dream about somebody. You're like, wow, where did you come from? They need to go on your list because they're ready to have a different container for you in your life. And it's beautiful. And if you have not yet done a sacred chord clearing, I invite you to do that too. Okay. Till next week. Same time, same channel. Love you all.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Right.